This video is brought to you by Bellroy. Today, Biden meets Chinese President Xi Jinping. 60 women accuse the Ministry of Defense of toxicity, and the investigation into George Santos finally concludes. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Friday the 17th of November 2023. Yesterday, the leaders of the two most powerful countries on Earth met at a summit in California, in which both leaders agreed to direct, open, clear communications. This was the first time the two leaders have spoken to one another in more than a year, which many have interpreted as a sign that the relationship between them is improving. Discussing this new commitment to open communication, Biden said that situations in which communication is lacking is how accidents happen. It was only last year that military-to-military communication was severed after US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan, a territory that's self-governed but that China views as part of its territory. This was only made worse this year when a Chinese spy balloon was shot down when it entered US airspace. This saga continued for a few weeks, in which US-China relations noticeably took a bit of a hit. So this meeting appears to have gotten the relationship back on track, and both leaders used the opportunity to discuss issues that affected their respective countries. For example, both Biden and Xi agreed to take steps to try and stop the flow of fentanyl into the US. This comes following a sharp uptick in deaths from the drug recently. This is noticeable because Chinese manufacturing companies are a source of the chemical, which are used in the creation of the drug. About this agreement, Biden said it will save lives. The two leaders didn't just discuss issues that are going to affect their two countries, though. They also discussed the ongoing conflict in Israel and Gaza, where Biden is reported to have asked China to try and use its influence with Iran to stop them from doing anything seen as provocative. The meeting, though, wasn't without its hiccups. Later in the day, after a dinner with US business leaders, the US president asked whether he'd describe Xi Jinping as a dictator. Biden said he's a dictator in the sense that he's a guy who runs a country based on a form of government that is totally different from ours. In responding to this comment, China's foreign ministry condemned the remarks, saying they were extremely wrong and irresponsible political manipulation. While this was widely reported on by the press in the US, the Chinese press did gloss over this detail. There's more on the way, but be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make the daily briefing part of your daily routine, or just search for us on your podcast app to listen along. Moving to the UK now, where around 60 women in the Ministry of Defence have accused the organisation of widespread toxic and hostile behaviour in a letter seen by The Guardian. In essence, it's been claimed by the women that they've been propositioned, groped and touched repeatedly by male colleagues. In addition, they claimed, "We are spoken over during meetings, we are subject to pejorative language, we receive unwanted attention and face sexual harassment, including intrusive staring, sexualised comments, running commentary about what we wear, how we look and how we smell." In response to these claims, the Ministry of Defence said in a statement that "we are deeply concerned by the complaints made and we are taking action to tackle the issues raised. No woman should be made to feel unsafe in defence, and this behaviour will not be tolerated. We also continue to encourage anyone who has experienced or witnessed this kind of inexcusable behaviour to report it immediately." However, some of the specific claims suggest that they were discouraged from reporting inappropriate behaviour. In fact, according to the letter, attempts to speak out are generally minimised rather than listened to. Ultimately, the letter calls for a change to the department's policies and its internal culture. Moving to the US, where a House of Representatives investigation into George Santos has finally concluded. Santos is the representative for New York, but has come under fire recently over his financial disclosure reports. It's this that prompted the investigation, which concluded that they'd found substantial evidence of potential violations of federal criminal law, and that Santos knowingly caused his campaign committee to file false or incomplete reports with the Federal Election Commission, used campaign funds for personal purposes, engaged in fraudulent conduct, and engaged in knowing and willful violations of the Ethics in Government Act. More specifically, the committee found that Santos had moved funds that were donated to his campaign to his personal account and spent the money on OnlyFans accounts at Sephora, Hermes, parking, meals, and to pay off credit card bills. Additionally, he used the money on Botox, a luxury vacation, and spa treatments. Responding to these allegations, Santos said on Twitter that if there was a single ounce of ethics in the ethics committee, they would not have released this biased report. He also described the report as a disgusting politicised smear. Santos concluded the tweet by confirming that he would not be seeking re-election next year. Over in the Middle East, it appears that Israel is planning another military operation in southern Gaza, as they've asked residents of neighbourhoods to evacuate their homes. It's reported that they've done this by dropping leaflets over these neighbourhoods, urging them to leave the area. Up until now, the IDF have mainly focused on northern Gaza. This all took place while Israel continued its raid of hospitals in Gaza City, including the largest Al-Shifa hospital. The Israeli military carried out the raid while patients and doctors sheltered on higher floors in the hospital. As a result of this raid, Israel claims to have found a command centre in the hospital, alongside weapons and combat gear belonging to Hamas militants. This included Israeli forces finding weapons hidden behind an MRI scanner. Speaking about the raid of the hospital, US President Joe Biden said, "The IDF acknowledges that they have an obligation to use as much caution as they can in going after their targets. It's not like they're rushing into the hospital, knocking down doors and pulling people aside and shooting people indiscriminately." It should be noted, however, that two people who were in the hospital at the time suggested that Israeli soldiers took several people in the hospital away for further questioning, some with visible bruises and wounds. In the final uplifting story today, we discuss renewable energy in Portugal. It was reported on Wednesday that for 6 days, Portugal ran on 100% renewable energy. This target was achieved thanks to the use of wind, hydro and solar power. Hugo Costa, who oversees the renewable arm of state utility, said the gas plants were there, waiting to dispatch energy should it be needed. It was not, because the wind was blowing and it was raining a lot. This then is a big step towards Portugal's net zero by 2050 aims.
Now, when it comes to our journalism, you clearly expect us to provide high quality and responsible reporting. But shouldn't you also expect the same from the products you buy? I certainly do, and that's why for the last few years I've been exclusively using wallets, phone cases and passport cases from Bellroy, which is why I was super excited to hear that they wanted to sponsor some of our videos. As a loyal Bellroy user for the past few years now, I know quite how reliable and high quality their products are. My current phone case, for instance, is beautifully minimal in this stunning terracotta leather. That leather, by the way, is eco-tanned and achieved a gold rating from the Leather Working Group, recognizing excellence in environmental and labor practices. It's also just a beautiful, high-quality material that, in my experience, only gets better with age. Bellroy don't just talk about their environmental credentials either. They're also an officially certified B Corp company and have upcycled 10.5 million plastic water bottles, used 60,000 kilograms of industrial nylon cutoffs, and saved 15 million litres of water by using dry tan leathers. Their products are also just great to use. Designed around principles of minimalism, all of the Bellroy products that I've bought have been beautifully designed and easy to use, with their bags optimizing for functionality and efficiency, and their wallets are slimline enough to fit into any pocket. So find out why I've been using Bellroy for years now, and check out their huge array of products by clicking the link in the description. Plus, when you do, you'll get 10% off anything you order. Thanks to Bellroy for supporting the channel, and thanks to you for using our link.